this is also a Monkey King, unless they put Gardic on the Tidehunter, that is going to be in a core position because the Weaver is surely going to be your 4 or your 5 here. And I think that's where Infamous, well, they're just rounding out the lineup here. This does lock in that Ember Spirit almost surely in the mid lane. I feel like they have a few too many 4 heroes at this stage of the game. And I think this might be a 5 Snapfire, a 4 Mirana, and then maybe looking for something else for Oscar here. It's honestly looks a little bit weird because talking about Thunder Awaken, they would just run the Snapfire as a 3 and the Ember as a 4 9 times out of 10. So the Mirana pickups definitely Infamous's own direction, but I think that's where if they want to keep their opponents guessing here, probably just pick up the carry. They know they're playing versus the Tidehunter. First hero that comes to mind surely is going to be the Lumiere Ursa. If he wants to go for maybe more of a hard farmer, I don't know. You're probably not going to see the Medusa again just because that Weaver is enough anti-armor to, I think, put you in a little bit of fear. They could pick the TA, which would be very scary, but nope, Sand King's going to be the call instead for Oscar.
Okay. Now, the Sand King has been used very sparingly, I think, in this event,
Mhm.
and results have not been always consistent, but should work out relatively well for them. But now, what is the game plan here? Is this Mirana 4, and then I guess you run a 5 snap and see where that puts you, or really see any other kind of play for Infamous at this point?
Yeah, and it was the same story in the first draft. They didn't really have that mobility in their heroes, and of course, alone ended up on the uncounterable matchup of Monkey versus Lena. But I think that's where maybe with the Monkey King picked up on Hokori's side, saying we're okay with the Monkey versus Ember matchup. We're just going to see what you do here. So we're going to pick up our side lane instead. And Sand King, it feels almost like a preemptive pickup. Of course, the offlane pool had already been thinned out. LC was still available if they wanted to go for that. But Sand King surely dissuades more illusion-based heroes. We could definitely see Hokori maybe a little bit more hesitant to go for something like the Chaos Knight. But I think that's also where Wraith King is also in the pool. But okay, keep us guessing. Abaddon's still available. So this means that, yeah, this is going to be either a 1 or a 2 Monkey King. They do shift it up, so that way that Tidehunter is going to be forced to be the 3 position, which, of course, not too upset about. That's how this draft felt like it was going to go from the beginning. But again, no emphasis on the Abaddon ban. This hero is really strong. Everybody knows how to play it, and I'm really surprised, again, seeing it not banned against the Mirana. It's feels like, again, we're not having enough bans for some of the heroes we're picking up.
Yeah, and like we've sort of mentioned before, that might still come down to adjustment to the new patch, but at a certain point, we're barreling towards the playoff stage. You can only use that excuse for so long. It's going to start to wear thin, right?
Mhm.
Oh, we're still experimenting. It's like, boys, you're getting into playoffs. This is where elimination might come down the line starting in a couple of days. It's time to really identify some of those issues. Although, to be fair, letting the ABBA through, it is going to be maybe obnoxious for Infamous. It's going to be far from game changing, right? The ABBA is not ever going to be the absolute difference maker in a game, but you are making things a little harder for yourself.
Yeah, and of course, there are still risks involved playing a Abaddon versus a hero like the Sand King. Sand King can definitely catch a few heroes in the stun. You have to choose which is your best friend, who you actually want to go for. And they ban
Hmm.
out Razor. Now, are they trying to lead into a troll last overall pick here? Because that's the most forcing move you could make with a Razor ban. Because I think that's where Infamous, it's their call to make, and they've got a lot of time here for their last selection. There's no rush. They've got a full 2 minutes to sit here and think. But at the same time, Razor ban, it's very telegraphed. It's much more quiet than anything else. And okay, instead they say TB, and that would do very well versus the troll. That's your answer. Where suddenly, do you actually want to approach up versus him once you get the Scotty on TB? As we always see it come down to that. What are you actually capable of doing here? And now, Hikori, Wraith King's still in the pool, but do you want to pick a hero like that into the Terrorblade? I'm not entirely certain. I think that Yuma is going to be a little bit hard pressed. They could look for the troll just because, hey, it's going to be a pretty easy lane versus the Sand King. Not to mention, if Ember Spirit ever gets caught in your entangle, well, he's not really able to get out if you're just able to chain it up. But this is a big concern. Nobody on Hikori are really adept at running down those illusions in the lane. It's a very free TB gain in that regard, where you're always going to have this nagging issue of who's going to deal with the split push coming out from those Conjure Image. really no one. It's going to be a combined effort of the Tide and the Monkey, I think, when it comes to those split push plays coming out from Infamous. And again, you give Lumiere too much space. I don't think Hokori want to lose in that same fashion as they did in game one.
Yeah, Lumiere's playstyle is going to be similar to what we saw on the Medusa, and honestly, I think Lumiere is more known for his TB than the Medusa play. He hasn't gotten to play it consistently for quite some time, just because the hero wasn't always getting picked up, but it is a hero that he was playing pretty heavily, actually pretty heavily back when he was with the Hokori organization, so we'll see what he can do there. The answer on the Hokori side of things will be a bit of a change-up. They'll go for the Huskar for analog, push Yuma onto that Monkey King as a position 1 hero.
Yeah, and they always had this option. They always were gonna leave this open to themselves. And okay, Ember versus Huskar. I feel bad for Alone. Alone's not gonna have too much fun here. He's gonna have to farm that small camp pretty much the entire game. But we've also seen, even though the lane is bad, you could still get those range creeps. It's where new Ember Spirit. It's definitely much more difficult to completely shut him out. But Analog, he's going to need to do a lot for his team here. Not to mention, okay, Yuma, he's also a really good Monkey King player. Him and Lumiere, they're really spoken in the same breath when it comes to their initiations and what they're able to do across the map. But I think that's where Yuma, he's really got to play a shutout game. He needs to not only dominate his lane, but then appear mid at the right time to catch off guard that Ember Spirit, lead into these tower pushes, because Infamous, well, their wave clear isn't the best when it comes to getting on top of these buildings. Hokori definitely have the advantage of just flooding heroes and HP bars, but again, you have this nagging suspicion in the back of your mind that if Lumiere gets too much farm, it's just going to be his game.
Yeah, like I said, the game plan is going to be pretty similar to game 1, and Lumiere turned in a 0-death performance in that game on the Medusa, so going to be looking to do something similar, and it's going to be all up to Hokori to not allow that to happen. Otherwise, well, it could just be that repeat and they could take a 0-2 loss that they really can't afford at the moment. So we'll see if it's going to be enough. We'll see if Yuma can be that sort of snowbally hero. You have a pause and a lot of players just scribbling all over the map here. It's the Ember who's DC'd at the moment, so not quite ready to get started just yet.
Yeah, and really, I do want to see what, especially, oh boy, Yuma's doing the thing all across, but that's not Yuma.
Yeah, hold on. Someone
That's
else has
Vitali.
discovered the dark arts.
Oh, the tricks. The tricks are ever present, but I think back to the point of Hokori, what Ithiliakor is going to be able to accomplish here, I think as much as you praise four players like him and Sladen, they're really in the same vein. How much farm he's able to amass, whether his rotations are actually going to start shutting out, because we've seen four positions in this meta just really shut down the safe laners, and that's why heroes like the Abaddon and the Ogre Magi are so popular, because you need that stopper in front, and Abe isn't that stopper this time around. He's on the Snapfire. He's on a hero that I don't want to say can feed very easily, but it doesn't feel like he has naturally as many resources to give. Playing that sacrificial role might not pan out nearly as much as when you are on those healers, I want to say. And Infamous, they don't have a healer. That's where Hokori, they definitely have the advantage there, and just having the Huskar and the Abaddon being slightly more robust. Even Yuma having natural lifesteal, and we'll have to see if Infamous have enough damage, because it feels like that is what it boils down to in this current meta. The damage mitigation versus the burst, and whether or not you win that side of the coin is really what spells out all of these games.
And I don't know. As you said, the lack of heals on the Infamous side, I guess if Affliction is able to get an Aghanim Scepter like Sladen did in game 1, then you have not a heal, but a save, I suppose. But we were talking about that Ags in the previous game being something that very rarely had been seen from any support Snapfire, even the core Snapfires that we've seen. So it seems a bit unlikely that we see that 2 times in a row, especially considering the fact that normally Affliction's farming priority basically never exists. Any last hits he gets are almost sort of incidental.
Yeah, he's really lucky to get his Glimmer Cape or a Force Staff, and then sometimes, especially when he gets to play his Oracle, you know, he gets a little bit more, or his Gyrocopter. Then we see the A train, but Besides that, I think he really is going to be pushed back. And yet again, Infamous do have a very balanced lineup, I want to say, in the similar vein to Game 1, where they have a traditional playmaker in their one or in their two and their three, and then a hard farmer on their carry. But it's where you wonder if the traditionalism is going to pan out here. And okay, Yuma actually overblocked, I want to say, a little bit, so the wave's going to push ever so naturally. But already you see the emphasis from Art Gartic over here, blocking out that large gap, not giving Sladen nearly as free a time as Hokori had in the previous game.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see Oscar sort of waiting in the tree line for so long. Didn't want to reveal himself, though, until he knew he had his teammate with him. But this is always going to be an interesting matchup, right? Sand King against any sort of melee carry. He can do a little bit more. His kit is kind of designed to be maybe not aggressive against melee heroes, but certainly annoying. Right now, no points up in the finale or the Sandstorm, but you got to assume, you know, it'll be coming once the levels get built up.
Yeah. And really, the most unfortunate aspect of this Sand King, we'll have to see how he ends up panning out versus Yuma, but you're an item-based hero. You're no longer just automatically going to have that level 6, and then you can make those plays, and I think that's where, again, we're going to need to see a lot from the Snapfire. They've been doing a really good job, though, stunning up Yuma on that range creep. That's the second time he's gotten his Boundless canceled, and as long as they can keep the levels out of the Monkey King's hands, I mean, it's going to come naturally, but if they can slow him down, it makes Oscar's lane infinitely more easy.
And Mirana's been able to get a couple of those arrows in there. The Abba has not exactly had the block, and now, is that not both couriers, just the one, and it's only Gardic, so at least the Monkey King's going to have items delivered out to him. But Courier Snipe still going to be beneficial here in this offlane for the Infamous side. Now, see Sladen making a move towards mid. This really just has to be chains into arrow. Okay, they've got it. Very nearly hit a creep, but it will make the connection, and this might just be first blood. Analog, he's not going to survive. That TP coming in is canceled as they realize it's not going to be enough to matter. And that is a very early rotation from Sladen, but it works out.
No, and it's perfectly timed by him and alone. You've got all of these creeps hitting the Huskar as well. It's amazing that it didn't clip onto that melee creep, but I think that's where maybe Analog is going to be kicking himself, because that is a huge kill to give away to Alone, who, of course, has only been sliding for ranged creeps for the longest time now, 13 and 7. Analog's been playing the lane, but it just feels like that's going to be everything to get him kind of back in it. And now, if he needs to, go for another point. And actually went for a second point in Searing Change. That is
what?
Very different, because usually, especially in the setup, and are they going for it again? Is this
Yes,
why?
they are.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah,
they glyph.
a longer route time, just allowing that that arrow to make the connection that much easier. Okay. I mean, it's a half second, but that can make all the difference as Analog gets taken down. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, they also the Olakor as well, and Vitali, I mean, it's a very tanky tide, but really nothing he can do anymore. He has to TP back to his tower, so this is an amazing start for Infamous. 3 kills on the board, and Sladen, look at him. He's hanging out in the top lane, really just basically saying, Oscar, handle your business by yourself. I'm busy.
Yeah, and really, with how slow Yuma was able to get off too, and of course he does have his boots finally, but you're not seeing that same level of pressure. Oscar's doing a really good job of manipulating the waves, and of course Yuma's not going to say no to taking all these waves under tower, so even though he's trying to meet them, it feels like it's not going to work out, and Yuma's definitely starting to feel like he needs to be a little bit more effective here at shutting out the Sand King, because, well, unfortunately for Hokori, you can't afford to lose all 3 lanes, and back in the mid, at least Analog will be able to establish some control, but this is feeling more like a 50-50 matchup after those 2 deaths, and Analog is really quickly coming up on his level 6. Suddenly, he doesn't even need the lane versus you anymore. He can just gank everywhere else.
Yeah, once Alone hits level 6, he's just going to be able to make plays, and Analog, he's a full level behind at this stage. That's not going to be good, and, well, going to be the chains. Unfortunately, Sladen didn't quite have the angle that time around, but now if you're Analog, that fear is maybe in the back of your mind, right? Anytime the Searing Chains do get deployed, his head needs to be on a swivel thinking, you know, where is that Mirana? If Sladen's nearby, he could very easily get picked off again.
Yeah, and that's also where Gardic is permanently outposted
Sladen.
here, and perfect.
Wow, that was like frame perfect on the Aphotic. Didn't even really see Analog get stunned, so... Oh, heads up move. Now Gardic knows what's up. If they're going to keep making this play, I need to just babysit mid, and that is unfortunate, because now you don't have any real backup for Yuma, but much like Oscar, Yuma really doesn't need any backup right now. This is just turning into a farming lane down bot.
Yeah, and it is going to be Sladen and Gardic just chasing each other around the map, one shutting out the other. Sladen's the one to make the call whether or not he sticks around, because he has creeps to arrow. He has camps to stack if he really wants to, whereas Gardic, he really has fewer plays to be made, but at the same time, I feel like Infamous have got exactly what they have wanted to get out of this early game, and even though there is a little bit of a lead emerging from Yuma here, it's going to be a really fast blink dagger, I think, for Oscar here, and he's not messing around, not looking for the hood or the Vanguard beforehand. He's just going to play on these tranquils and then get his blink as soon as humanly possible.
He is ever so slightly stopping for a soul ring, but, you know, that's the most minor of purchases, really. Not going to slow up the progress that much. In fact, honestly should keep him farming maybe more efficiently, so long as he's not going head-to-head with the Monkey King. So, Sand King knows what he's about. They know that they need to try and make some plays, and, well, now the second point in the Searing Chains has another benefit. We were talking about it for the arrow setup, but an extra half second could buy time for a Sand King with an early blink to then get into range for a follow-up play as well.
Yeah, and, well, unfortunately, still don't have a Weaver in the game, but we'll get him eventually, and that's where Infamous, they need to do a really good job still of splitting up the Hokori lineup. I really don't know how they would handle 5 Hokori heroes in a lane, just because with tools like the Ravage, like the, again, stability of the remainder of their heroes, they're just very robust once you actually break out of the laning stage. I think Infamous just doing a good job of keeping their advantage where it can be. I think Hokori looking for their next play, though, it's kind of few and far between, because, well, who is their easy play to be made? Because Vitaly, sure, he's going to push in the top waves, he's going to play on the carts, and then eventually he's going to show up mid, but you don't see that same level of aggression. It's not like he's on a timber saw. It's not like he's going to be able to just sit infinitely underneath the tower and just whittle it away. He's just on a less ideal hero to play that kind of style. So when it comes to pushing their advantage and getting these objectives, I wonder where we're going to see that initial break and whether or not it's just going to have to come from Yuma, if anyone. But then you're pulling your hard farmer out of the mix, and that's where having heroes like the TB, just always having that threat on the map of pushing in your lanes, it's a concern that I think both teams need to be very aware of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. All things considered, though, I mean, we're still 5.5 minutes in, so these questions are important, but it may not be a situation where a team will need an immediate answer for a little while longer, as we do have Theolacor getting himself back into the game, and looks like we're going to be ready to go as the match will be resumed. So, all things considered, well, going okay. Theolacor's back in, ready to go. We'll see if there's any sort of significant movement here. It really seems like right now it's just a dance between Gardic and Sladen.
Yep, and honestly, doesn't need to be too much of a dance. They would love to get a rune with their Ember Spirit here, but Gardic, luck of the draw, hits the DD. Sladen not forced to use his leap there, but definitely felt like he might have to. But again,
here's the combo.
Unfortunately, got the angle. Oh man.
Gardic is unfortunately not in position, so you go from nice, I got a DD rune, I kept it away from the opposing core, this is a good move, to now you're out of position. They immediately make the jump in, and Oscar, that's not your base. He doesn't really have much of a choice in the matter, but 6.5 minutes in, you have Oscar dying underneath an opponent's tier 3. That's a little bit strange, and that's how Hokori get their first kill of the game, believe it or not, and it goes into the hands of Yuma as well. So actually, Oscar just really kind of overstepping that little bit there, because your Monkey King is already farming incredibly well, ET. Now he's got the kill gold to sort of boost that progress further.
Yeah, and really, he's trying to pull the creep wave. He's trying to be really efficient with his farm, and hey, you got a 3-hero reaction, dive into tier 3, 7 minutes into the game, 6 minutes into the game, so He has a massive, absolutely massive creep wave coming in as well, and that's where Oscar is just looking to farm it all up, and he gets all this. That'd be pretty big, but that's where Hokori, oh, they would love to take him out before this, but nope. Oscar just gets all of it, and we'll try
Still gonna
now.
make the jump, yeah. TP coming in. Will it be in time, though? That boundness comes through. Oscar turns around. He's actually gonna try and channel out the ult. Didn't get it off in time, though, but Alone's at least gonna be able to make it a trade, taking Theolacore down, but I don't think he can go toe-to-toe with Yuma at the moment.
Yeah, and a little bit awkward there, but Balone used maybe one spell too much, so his triple remnant is still there. He just didn't have enough mana for the activation, so a little bit awkward. And of course, maybe if he does have the tankier build up on the Sand King, we see that play pan out. But unfortunately, with just the Tranquils and just now finishing the Soul Ring, just not very tanky on Oscar. And I think now skilling up that epicenter point is going to feel a little bit sad because you want to get greedy on that hero when it comes to skill points. You want to have your abilities just as much as you want the ultimate. And now you're starting to get run over a little bit. And I feel like he's almost assuredly dead here. He's going to try to run, but it's way too much.
Oh, hold on. Not dead yet. There it is. Theolacore able to get in there for the final right click. Meanwhile, Lumiere, he's still on the run, not able to stop. Now he'll sort of come to a stop near the camp, but this is a bit of a problem. This stacked camp is actually spotted by Vitaly. He's got a maxed out Anchor Smash, so he's going to steal that away while Theolacore is still scouting. Able to get eyes on Lumiere. Down in the bottom lane, though, Oscar will have his revenge. He couldn't get the Epi off in the previous fight. He has it available for that one. He and Sladen combine their lockdown to take out a solo Monkey King.
Yeah, and really, just Sladen continues to prove to be the most important member of his team. He's just setting up everywhere for his teammates. He's really been the difference maker, and is this going to be his... Okay, he still needs a little bit more gold from Oscar here, but this Blink Dagger is coming at an incredible rate, still going to be around that 10-11 minute mark, and then we can definitely see him getting more aggressive. Meanwhile, Alone is looking at Gardic, and, well, he's getting bullied a little bit, but I hear the Monkey King here.
Gardic still gets the kill. Meanwhile, Affliction, yeah, it's a nice attempt to get up onto the high ground, but that's still a Monkey King with the range, so it's going to be a one-for-one trade on the supports. They would love more, though, but Vitaly, he's holding on to that Mango, so you do still have to deal with the threat of the Ravage. As Sladen, he doesn't care. He's going to go in looking for the kill. Doesn't quite get it, though, onto Theolacore. But what's going on here? Yuma was attempting to hunt down the Ember Spirit, but Alone's going to be able to jump away. While all of that went down, though, trade-off of the tier 1s. Both of the offlaners able to take those down. Yuma is now the one hunting. This is a very strange series of events. So much movement over the last minute or two as Alone is going to get jumped in on. His Remnant is so incredibly slow. He's going to jump to it, but it's not going to create the separation he needs. And Yuma is able to take him down.
And there you go, with the Ember getting as active as he has, left his own devices, and yes, Sladen, only one leap. Ooh.
Very close call there. Good play in from the Snapfire to save his buddy, getting that extra separation with the Fire Snap Cookie. But now, Hokori have cleared a path. They're going to try and take the tier 1 tower mid. The Glyph is going to be there to slow it down, but they should get it, yeah. Just
this is a really important T1. With this thing, go Roche pretty soon here, but they're TPing in a little too late.
Oscar,
but here we
okay.
go.
Epicenter in, Mortimer Kiss is there, the Ravage from Vitaly comes out, but it's too late to matter. Yuma and Vitaly both dead. They're going to lose the Abba as well, and Analog, he is on the run. They're not going to let him go, though. Yeah, maybe they will. Alone doesn't actually continue the chase, but Oscar will. There's going to be the first stun into the arrow for the second. Analog gets taken down. Hokori, well, they get the tower, but an incredible price to be paid. You mentioned the push in from Infamous. It did seem a little bit late, but it's still going to work. Oscar, I cannot believe he made that play. He is so low on health, but he goes in for it. And now, Gardic, you can't be here. He's going to pop the ult that's going to keep him alive, and okay, hold on. Maybe he can be here, because Alone in some trouble, trying to jump away to the Remnant. Vitaly doesn't want to let him go, but he already used the Gush. Wasn't in range for the Anchor Smash, so multiple cores on Infamous playing on very low HP, but they get away with it.
Yeah, and it's back to that Blink Dagger timing, not going for, again, the slower item buildup just resulted in them taking a 4v5 where Lumiere was able to farm everywhere else. So while the rest of your team is winning the fight with a crazy epicenter, your TB is farming during all of that, and you find 0 return kills. It's where I think Hokori, that's the one play they can throw away. Sure, you got caught off guard, you didn't see it coming, but I think going forward, they really need to be careful about grouping up like they did. And of course, that's the game plan. It is going to be showing up with as many heroes as they possibly can in the same area, but it just felt like all of their spell usage came up maybe just a little bit too late. Not to mention, Gardic, I don't think he was even level 6 whenever that fight initially broke out here, but more the setup. It's just the chains into arrow. They continuously find these plays.
Because now Alone is maneuvering towards the pit. Yeah, they have to back off of it. They see the heroes now coming in. And Analog, he gets pulled pretty far away there. Do they have the damage to actually finish him off? Not just yet. Alone, he needed that sleight of fist up a second or two earlier. He's going to go in for it now, but now it's too late. But Oscar, Epicenter's in. Going to be able to hit up Vitali. Yuma, though, channeling out the Wukong's command. This might help turn the fight, but the spear actually hit up onto him. He's going to get stunned. Starstorm comes through. Oscar gets the kill with the Sandstorm DOT. But they're still losing too much. Alone's dead. Oscar was just fighting under a sentry the whole time. So Hokori, get away with one, I think is the phrase we have to use here. That was so strange to lose that first hero so close to the pit. But at this point, I mean, Sladen, he's got to try, but it's not going to work out. He will be taken down. He got the kill on the Gardic. The kisses are now coming through. Analog, well, okay, doesn't die to the kisses, but hey, Lumiere shows up, finds the pick, and this is a very strange series of events because Roshan is abandoned. It's got 2k HP, and if Infamous only knew, Lumiere could get in there. He did lose the meta, but I think you could still do this. Not sure if Hokori are going to be willing to take the fight, although they have to be careful of the Tide's position. Vitali may not have a blink, but he still has the Ravage.
Yeah, and it really is awkward now for Infamous just because they used the kisses, they didn't get anything from it. I think A's spell usage there just missing the mark a little bit, and okay, Oscar with the smoke blinked in, but they really need to start picking them apart yet again on Infamous, because the straight up fight, it's getting more difficult, and every spell that gets put by them, they have to be so much more careful because they've gone for the initiating tools, they've gone for the damage, they're very not tanky, and okay, still hitting up with the chains does force out the time lapse, but that's where Hokori do have the advantage, where they have the aphotic shield, they have the urns, they have the easy resets, where Infamous, if they ever get caught out, they kind of are dead to rights.
Meanwhile, Oscar, this is sort of a problem for him. This is the same Sentry Ward that got him killed the last time around. So, he might get caught again as they do see him here. Oscar, this time he's just going to get dusted, trying to get himself away. Yuma, though, Yuma gets killed. He's in the north side jungle. They picked him off, so I mean, the trade-off is just going to be there, and I don't know if, oh god, I don't know if they really want this next fight. Alone is looking for it, though, pushing in, but he's going to get hit by the inner fire. TP canceled by the Ravage. Alone is trying to do a little bit too much there, and now the death of Yuma really isn't going to matter as much, because Analog, I don't know how much he really has to worry about. His teammate, though, is dropping low, as Gardic should die to the Starstorm, and yeah, that's it's unfortunate, but yeah, they're going to get the Mortimer Kisses into the pit again. Analog, can he survive? For now, yes, but that killed Roche. Oh, that's so unfortunate. It's a nice play from Affliction, and okay, he'll help get a kill onto Theolacor. Unfortunately, it was too much damage. He hits Roshan, takes it down, and Analog technically will snatch the Aegis, but there was no chance anyone on the Infamous side was getting that Aegis in their hands.
Oh, it was so close. He was walking towards the top of the pit like he wanted to cookie in. It felt like a race, but then he decides to think better of it, as he would have surely died there if he did stay in the pit afterwards. But at the very least, if you're Hokori, hey, you got the Aegis. The Aegis definitely mattered more than the gold for the Huskar. Now, Analog can play with a shred more confidence when it comes to sticking around in these fights, but we got to see 2 Mortimer Kisses go off, I want to say, during that entire Roche expedition, where it took so long to actually get that kill. Everything just felt awkward. But we talk about time, Lumiere, aside from the one time he showed up and just simply reflected Analog to death, he hasn't skipped a beat. He's just farming, doing whatever he wants, and oh, Vitali got arrowed mid. Don't think they have the damage to do anything to him, but back to Lumiere, he is farming so quickly, definitely ahead of the Monkey King, and because of how much pressure has been put on that pit around the objective, that's where Yuma has also fallen off pretty hard when it comes to his own farming rate. We're going to need to see, I think, them to play really hard up on these power spikes when it comes to maybe the BKB and the Halberd being finished, because without that, we're barreling towards an itemless hero where Lumiere is just going to have this Scotty, and he's really not going to care about what you're putting down.
And Lumiere really is just playing the same game over again. I think this is almost the exact itemization. Dragonlance, just the Yasha, not the upgrade into the Scotty. So, well, we saw what happened last time when he was able to pull this build off. The Medusa was massive. They could not kill her, and Lumiere was able to just help his team march to a win. So, something needs to be done on the Hokori side. They are looking to push the tier 2 top, but, well, without the creep wave, they can't really commit all in for this. And ET now, I kind of want to wonder, you know, they got that Aegis in their hands. Do they feel maybe more pressure now to try and get in, now that they've got those 2 lives and force some sort of fight, as there is a fight going down, but it's not the one they want. Down bottom, Yuma's going to get picked off. Gardic able to pop the ult. Vitaly now blinks in, but doesn't throw out the Ravage right away. Would not really get all the targets that he wanted here, but that means Oscar's free to continue dishing out the damage. Gardic's going to be taken down. This is getting into a very awkward fight. They need to kill something. Oscar is going to be the target. They should finally finish that one off, but Sladen's able to trade it out. Jumps in, gets the Starstorm, and now TP's away.
I really just feel like Yuma's got to take a step back here. He can't keep getting picked off the way he has, because every single time it feels like Vitaly isn't able to connect, be there with the Ravage. Can you imagine if all of these heroes diving in on him just get met with the Blink Ravage? And that is what we have right now. Vitaly just finished his Blink Dagger. If Yuma didn't go down bottom, I can only imagine they would have looked for a smoke maybe just a few seconds earlier, but I still feel like Infamous are getting way too many positive trades for them right now, because again, all of these actions, that was a 3v5 is what happened there. Both the Ember Spirit and the TV were able to farm up on their lonesomes on the other side of the map, and you can't afford to lose those fights. They're doing a really fine job of ignoring especially Analog, where I just feel like they're not caring that the Huskar is in this game right now. And sure, Analog, highest net worth on his team, is trying to put pressure out on the map, but again, it's just Oscar and Sladen fighting the picks.
Now they got the arrow stun onto the Olakor. They'll take him down as well. 2 and 7 for your Weaver. I believe it was 3 and 6 for the Monkey King. They're just getting beat up, and now Analog by himself. Here comes the rotation. Infamous look to get that Aegis out of their hands. Double damage rune on the lone. Oscar now blinks in, gets off the Burrow Strike. Analog gonna try to fight his way out of this. Is Vitaly. That is a very nice Ravage. Catches alone. Analog is gonna lose that first life. Vitaly should now be dying as well. And Oscar's just gonna set up with the ult for the second life onto the Huskar, get the Burrow Strike down for a secondary stun, and Analog should die. That TP is not, really had no chance of ever completing. And they won't get Gardic at least. He TP's away, but that is rough. That's 4 heroes dead across the map. The Aegis is now gone. You used your Ravage. You get 1 kill on the Ember Spirit out of it, I suppose, but that's just not going to be enough.
No, definitely not. And Lumiere emerges from the jungle with the Scotty to kill the Huskar the second time. I mean, it just feels like Infamous are playing way too clean right now. And sure, Halberd's done. BKB is going to be next on the table, but I think without these BKBs, we're just not really going to see them go for that same level of play. And okay, Yuma, he's slinking forward. They could look for Lumiere after. Now, is he overstaying his welcome? I think he is.
He's in some trouble. He's got the Sunder, though. If he does get into a real sticky situation, he will pop that onto Yuma, but where's his backup? The team's not really coming in yet. Sladen is going to finally make his way over. Now the Warmer Kisses. They'll fly through. Oscar, 2-man Burrow Strike. Lumiere still fighting. Vitaly is the one who now has to sort of back away. That Aphotic Shield will be sort of thrown out onto him. It's going to absorb a little bit of damage, and that should get the Tide back safely, but they didn't get the target that they wanted. They didn't kill Lumiere. Now they're in some serious trouble. The Olakor is going to get taken down, and even under their own tier 2, they really don't feel fully safe here, as Alone is just going fishing, looking for the sleight of fist play. And now Oscar makes his move. Burrow strikes in. Gardic will be taken down. Analog rapidly running out of reinforcements. At a certain point, though, you think, yeah, maybe somebody comes in to just take this tower down. It's got 100 HP. They will be able to do just that. So now without that anchor, Hokori have to back off, and Oscar's not going to let them. Tries to Burrow Strike in. That may cost him, but the arrow comes in from range. They're going to stun up Analog, and they'll take him down. Big plays from Sladen. We've been sort of calling his number all day today. And, well, now Hokori have to scramble. That's a good boundless strike in. Alone is dropping low, but Oscar... channeling the Epi with about 200 health, and then immediately has to back out, but it provided the distraction. Hokori had to back off for just a moment, and the Olakor. That time lapse getting him out of trouble, but Yuma is in an awkward place, too far forward. That Boundless hits 3, but it doesn't matter. The rest of the team's not far enough forward to help. Hokori are starting to fall apart, ET.
And the Ravage, it's come back up finally, but Infamous, the only reason they stick around, they kept on baiting their opponents further and further away from the base. How many times did we see Infamous back up and then immediately return fire with an arrow or a burrow strike or just simply a slight chains? They just simply weren't able to do anything there, and without Vitaly's Ravage, they don't have enough control, and, well, Vitaly, I don't think he's going to die in the bottom lane, but that really is the name of the game now. What they do with their next Ravage is going to be, I think, how we're going to see really the rest of the game play out here, because it feels like without that next play being made, you're not going to see any more items coming in from your Monkey King. At least everything that's being made up right now is to get to those BKBs, so maybe they're not going to have to be so concerned of Oscar, but Oscar is playing out of his mind. He's finding everything he wants, everything he needs. He's hitting 2 3-man burrow strikes constantly, and at the same time, you started that fight off with a 4v1 on Lumiere with Sladen really just watching, but that's how far Lumiere has really run away with this game at this point, as now with the Sanjin Yasha purchase, hey, 3100 HP on a TB, are you actually bursting this guy in Ravage? I don't think you can, and now you have incredible problems on Hokori. Is jungling actually going to be able to fix this?
And now, like you said, can you burst him? Because your lockdown in this game is Ravage, Boundless Strike, and maybe let's be generous and say the Inner Fire as well, right? Although, at this point, I don't think the knockback would really stop the Sunder from coming out, so you really have 2.5 spells to try and prevent that Sunder from coming out. That's the time frame that you have to kill the Terrorblade in, and we just saw them try it. It didn't really work, ET.
Nope, and I think that's where they're just transforming the map right now. If you're Infamous, just take these objectives. They have the Ravage, but they also know that as soon as they use it, that fight that played out bottom is just going to play out anywhere else, because I think it's where the Ravage is just too valuable to them at this point that they can't even afford to use it unless it's to defend high ground, or really more so to contest this Roche. And I think that's where the game is going to be settled. If Infamous get this next Aegis, I really don't know how Hokori take another team fight where everything is going to come for Hokori. If they get this Aegis, they somehow get a fight that follows afterwards. Maybe they can do something with this double BKB timing, but if this misses, I think that we might just see the GG after that, because Lumiere is massive, and he is not bound by a BKB timing. He is playing completely opposite to that. He's trying to be the stat king here, and we'll see an early timer. This would favor Infamous just so much. This would hit right before Yuma actually gets to finish his BKB. It would just be the Huskars. And let's see, and it will spawn. If the Infamous scouted out here, they might just start it immediately. Kind of have their hands tied, chasing around the Weaver, but if they knew that this was happening, and actually, oh, Alone found him.
Okay. Forcing out the time lapse. Thus, not going to connect, so Theolacor should be able to get away, but yeah, this is a fantastic distraction. I don't even think Theolacor knows what he's distracting them from, but is buying time. They're not going into the Roche pit right now, but looks like Theolacor may still get caught out. That arrow will connect, but Sladen doesn't have Dust, and Affliction just missed, so we're still hunting. This is actually crazy. They brought Oscar in here to help this one out. Theolacor, though, still somehow not dead. He's got to wait 40 seconds for a TP, but at this point, he might actually just Shikuchi all the way back to his own side. However, they did finally scout out the Roche. Lumiere went into the pit, and we'll see it. So they're going to start going after Roshan here. The question is, if you're Hokori, can you afford to contest this, or at this point, can you afford not to, actually, is probably the better question, but they don't know. They're not getting there in time.
No, and they would absolutely love to, but it just feels like at this point, Lumiere, even though he doesn't have a crit stick, usually that's where the TPs would go in for the Roche. He's just going to get it for free. They're at the gates of the Roche pit. They scout it too late. They will get A, but can they change this together into a successful fight? But Vitaly got picked up by the rest of the lineup. Yep. Oh, no.
They keep the Tide out of the fight, and now all of a sudden Yuma and Analog have to do this by themselves. Lumiere, though, is dropping pretty low. He is going to be able to get off the Sunder. Kind of surprised that he did go for that, considering he had the Aegis. So now he's coming back up. Analog and Theolacor were both dead, or both are dead now. Garda gets taken down as well, so at the end of the day, the Sunder on the first life isn't really going to affect him too much. Yuma's the only survivor in that fight. Buyback statuses are not really good for Hokori. So Infamous, well, may have just shifted things sort of irrevocably into their favor with that. They don't have the Aegis for this subsequent push, but they're able to take away so much from the Hokori side that they're still able to just completely dominate the map.
Yeah, it's just the more net worth lead, and really, I want to see them smoke up and at least try a Ravage play, anything that they could try to swing the game in their favor, but unfortunately now Lumiere has a Satanic on top of all the other items he has in queue. The Butterfly will be the nail in the coffin. Nobody's getting an MKB in this game. I think at that point, you need some kind of miracle of magic damage to actually take him down here, and it's something that they just don't have. Not to mention, full Greaves on Sladen, really putting his net worth to good use, just having the saves. Again, I feel like Slade just never dies in these games. I feel like if we tallied up all of his deaths across the tournament, it'd be less than 10. He just always finds his farm.
It's been unbelievably efficient from that Mirana, and now you see the desperation play from Hokori. They're going to smoke up and look for something. If they run into Lumiere, that would be the perfect target to hit up, but they haven't been able to close the gap yet. Battali, though, blinking in, going for the Gush. Doesn't want to Ravage just yet, trying to hold it for as long as possible, but this is still going to be a hard kill. Lumiere's going to pop that Sunder. Now the Ravage will come through, but they need more damage, and they just don't have it. Lumiere walks away. They walk out of the Wukong's command, and they will simply reset this fight. Oscar now wants to go in. He's going to look for the Blink Burrow. He is directly on top of Analog, and that Huskar is dropped low, not taken down just yet, but Hokori are in a bad way. They've already lost the Ult. Gardic going down here, no ult to sort of get him back up, and that just has to really be the end of the fight. Yuma's not even going to escape, is alone. Remnant jumps on top of him. Affliction is the one to pick up a triple kill in the fight, if you can believe that, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a single kill. They don't get their first target on Lumiere. They don't get any sort of secondary target, despite multiple heroes dropping low. And I think DT, that was really their last best chance.
Yeah, it sucks that it strikes right as Lumiere gets his Satanic as well, so even though it looks like he's low, it looks like he can't have any more HP to his name, well, he's got the Satanic, he gets healed up by the Greaves. It was a little bit of a rough initiation for Oscar. He kind of got shredded on the way in just by that life break, but as for post-BKB, they had to use everything to chase onto Lumiere, that the kisses come through, and, well, you're using your BKB so early just to keep on top of Lumiere, and it really is the issue where Ravage is your only stun. I think now onto the Rax, there really isn't anything you could do. He's popped the meta preemptively, doesn't even care about the fight, and even though you have your BKBs, you don't have your Ravage, you have your Wukong's command in maybe 5 seconds here, but that's really just going to be a fight, I believe, for the top Rax, and, well, okay, Court does have to use his time lapse, but not even an Orchid, no silence is being built up by any of the members of Hokori. Lumiere, it just feels like he's under absolutely no pressure, and I think he's just looking for the win.
He's looking to take that out as Oscar. That's a nice play in. Burrow onto 2. Yuma's got to fall back, but the Mischief won't save him. He dies. Analog's gone as well. Neither hero has buyback. And that should really just be the end, and that's the GG. Hokori dropping the ball here, although even that is oversimplifying things. Infamous, excellent play. Lumiere in particular, just leading his team. That's another 0-death performance. Ends the 2-game series without any deaths to his name, and well, if you're Infamous, that's probably the best result you could have gotten. You needed as many points as possible in this final series. They'll pick up 2.
Yeah, and really, Infamous look pretty scary here. They just win the entire mid-game 4v5 versus Hokori. They hold him really at that Roche pit for another 5 minutes. Then I think Hokori were willing to stick around. They're just buying so much time for Lumiere. But even all the way back to 2 or 3 minutes into the game, just simply alone and Sladen coming together and starting Analog off on a horrible game and just never getting that stability back. And sure, you can give up 1 early death on the Huskar. I think that's fine, you know, sure, that's when the supports rotate and you're more or less helpless. But I think to highlight Gardic just not being there when he needs to, just having just a little bit too slow of a reaction, especially with Imrana being out of lane as far as they were, and then somehow Yuma being able to, or rather being unable to draw the lane or even pull Oscar away from his farm. Oscar had an 11-minute, I think it was 10:51 actually, Blink Dagger, which then catches you off guard for your penultimate mid push that would have led immediately into Roche. I feel like at every point that Hokori were supposed to be at their peak, Infamous met them with just exceptional item timings, exceptional play, and then unfortunately, Hokori just don't have enough gas in the tank to finish this off. After that first Aegis really just getting used the way it went, where Lumiere shows up with the Scotty and then just kills Analog, what feels like for free after the fight, they were just way too all in on this Tidehunter. And I think with the Tideweaver opening, they tried to shore up their issue with Yuma being on a playmaker like the Monkey King, but I think in going for the counterpick in the last overall Huskar, it just didn't pan out. That aspect of their draft just all and out failed.
Yeah, it looked so flat, and you take a look at the scoreboard here, it's such a stark contrast for Infamous. Nobody even really had to play in a sacrificial manner. Oscar had the highest death count with just 5. Meanwhile, for Hokori, 4 of their 5 players with 10 deaths. So Infamous start by bullying, as you said, sort of Analog in the middle lane, but then they really spread out the damage and the pain. Hokori just weren't able to salvage anyone's game whatsoever.
Yeah, and well, if you're Hokori, unfortunately, you better be crossing your fingers for four Zoomers here because now there is a universe out there where four Zoomers 2-0 Thunder Awaken, they're knocked down after an incredible run in Hokori. I feel like 2-0ing pretty much everyone. Well, they could very easily see that slip out of their grasp in really a dramatic fashion.
Yeah, it would be incredibly unfortunate for Hokori to have this kind of run and then still end up in lower bracket, but you have to finish strong, right? You have to sort of push through the finish line, not stop short, and fortunately for Hokori, they were certainly stopped short, mostly because they ran into a brick wall in the form of Infamous, but still, they will now watch the final series, or 2 series of the day today, and kind of have their fingers crossed because their fate is no longer in their own hands.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. Hope they're Thunder Awakened fans because they're looking for the 2-0.
Mm.
And fingers crossed if they do, then maybe they could survive. But you never know, especially in those NA versus SA matchups.
How much do you have to pay to get rushed shipping on some Thunder Awakened jerseys? Hokori may be looking to find out. In the meantime, though, we will be moving on. This first series is done. Congratulations to Infamous. Again, they stay alive for a shot at the upper bracket. Now, we have a chance to see if another team can maybe secure their spot in the upper bracket. Lava is going to be taking on Team Dogchamp here in a series that for Dogchamp has basically no meaning, but as we sort of said for Dogchamp yesterday in the King of Kings series, they're playing for pride and they're playing for the chance to play spoiler here, because if Dogchamp really even get maybe just one win, then they could affect Lava's positioning, maybe even be part of the reason why they get knocked down to the lower bracket. So quite a lot to play for there. Dogchamp can maybe just ruin Lava's day, but we'll see how that one pans out. We're going to be moving into that series in about 10 to 15 minutes here. So stick around and we will be back for the start of the game one.